Hi, I had a little hit of expansion the other day that I hope to kind of mirror to you and hope that it helps you in the same way. So when I say a hit of expansion, I'm really talking about new thought. And the other day I was working with somebody and she had this, I gave her this angle and she said, whoa, I've never thought of it that way before. And then later on in the same conversation, she said, we have 3 sessions left in this package and I want to do some really cool Stacy shit. What is that word you use? Oh, expansion. And I just thought it was so dichotomous and so funny because that's what we all do. We think we're supposed to get somewhere and produce. And we're not realizing that we are in that process while that process is within us. And most of our work is to get out of the way of that process. And it's to not try to do the process, but to be in process. So even the part that is saying like, I need to do something with this information is a narrowing of the expansion that's happening. So when there's a new thought, there's a new layer of possibility. And if it's a new thought that's actually for your own psyche, expansive, and some new thought to someone's psyche would be very limiting to somebody else's. But if there's a new thought and you can integrate that pregnancy of possibility, that new thought might be equally as true as your story, and you can hold space for both, that's called expansion. That is you buying inner geography in your inner kingdom. That is you being a real estate broker, a landlord. That is you nurturing your kingdom and actually not being a slumlord, like taking care of the gardens on your own grounds and letting them grow and plant seeds beyond what you currently have access to. So I love working with my ideal people because I always get to expand through their reflection. And the other day I was working with somebody and I can see that within her, she's got all of, if I want to talk about, I want to thread, I should say, attachment styles and nervous system responses. So I hope I can do it as eloquently as I feel it in my body. And I also hope nobody walks in my house right now. I'm probably gonna have a bunch of teenagers coming in here. But I had this feeling that, so she had an interaction with somebody that she polarized to fawning. And then she was mad at herself. She felt attacked and then she fawned. He's coming in. This is annoying. I'm in the middle of a video I've been trying to do all day.
Sorry. I didn't know.
Are you going upstairs right
I
now?
have to change and then I'm going to work.
Okay, how long is that gonna be?
It's like 5 minutes.
Can you close the top door? Thanks. I've literally been trying to sit for 5 minutes all day to do this video, and of course that happens. So, hit of expansion. I'm gonna leave this because this is my real life, so sorry for the interruption, but welcome to my world all day, every day. So, I realized that I work with a demographic from her example. This is generalizable to the entire demographic I work with, for the most part. When there is a calm, they are chaotic. And when there is chaos, they are calm. So if you think about this in fight or flight, or even attachment styles, a lot of them are ambivalent in relationships because what they do is polarize against somebody's state to make the temperature solid in the room, comfortable for both of them. But they don't have to do that anymore usually. So they're just bringing old patterns into new relationships and recreating old patterns that don't have to happen that way. But I realize that her tendency, and a lot of tendencies for people, is to polarize. And even when it comes to flight. If there was a man that she wanted that was running from her, the way that she would actually polarize in her mind would be to do the opposite of him, which is actually chase him. And this might sound dichotomous, but just hang with me. If you mirror somebody's energy and you meet them in their energy, that's one thing. But if somebody is ambivalent or avoidant and you are an ambivalent person, an attachment style, and they're running from you, if you were matching their energy, which I think is a new phenomenon that like, this is the hit of like expansion that I had where I was like, oh, interesting. I have always polarized energy. If there was a quiet room, I would make people laugh. If there was a loud room, I would stay super quiet, right? And just like take it all in. But then that leaves you, when you think that your role is to neutralize spaces, when you are in your own inner world without that kind of thing in the outer world, it's a little bit of a strange place to live because you think that your role is to neutralize spaces, but then when you get in your own space, you realize, I'm not very neutral in here. There's a lot of shit going on in here that when I use the outer world to say, okay, this is overstimulating, so I'm going to be calm, or this is calm, so I'm going to be overstimulated, right? Which is, I just had this image of her. Okay, let me go back. My fiance, I'll call him fiance because he prefers it to partner, even though we've been together for a decade. He thinks like, oh my God, don't call me your partner. I should just call him Chris, which is what he is to me, Chris. He's the most boundaried person I know. And I think that a lot of my demographic gets stuck in this reality where, so what happened with this client that kind of had this enlightened moment for me is she was yelled at and she fawned. And then she was like angry that she did it. So she did everything right in the outer world. And fawn, by the way, is a freaking punch. It's a weapon. Don't act like this fawning response is not a non-response, because it is not. It takes a lot of energy to mobilize, just like fighting or flighting. That fawn response is a weapon as much as it is a tool. Okay, so let's not like be like, oh, I fawned, I'm weak, which my demographic will do. And then they're mad at themselves for showing up weak instead of going, oh, that was my strategy in that moment, was to fawn. But so she polarized his energy when if she would have fought him, it would have, she, like men, I always say, like they fight each other. And then they're like, yo, man, you want a beer? Women, we fight and we remember that shit for 75 years, right? Like we are elephants. And I very much think it's probably because we don't actually fight. So it was very interesting. I was working with somebody recently who, she was in fight mode and I just met her there. I was like, listen, like, especially when it's like, it's one thing to be in fight mode, but when you direct it at me, and my strategy was, oh, I'm going to meet her in fight mode. And I'm also going to, my words are going to be appropriate. My social interaction is going to be appropriate, but I'm actually fighting on the inside with this person right now. Because I can tell she's fighting with me. And with me, like, she's literally fighting with me. She's paying me to fight. Which, it makes sense to me, but also, like, doesn't make sense. So, hey, Bug, yeah? Can you, like, run through, please?
Well, can I get water first?
So, I'm going to do this. I never do this in front of my kids. It's weird. Anyway, when I realized that I was being like that, like Chris would be, where there's energy and he matches it. That's the energy that when I was growing up, my dad would have road rage and somebody would cut him off and he'd be like, pull over, motherfucker. You know, just like, and my mom would be screaming and I'd be in the back like, oh my God. Like, I hope to God this guy isn't as psychotic as my father who's trying to get him to engage in that fight right now. Like, I wish there was somebody on the other side to neutralize that energy. That would just be like, okay, man, I'm just going to keep driving. Like, sorry, I did that. That's not always what happened. And I think in a man's world, oftentimes they meet energy with energy. But in a woman's world, or somebody who has been oppressed, or it's been their role to neutralize other people's energies, you gotta go. It's like, I'm not gonna be able to do it if you're here.
I'm working on it. I gotta get my shoes on.
The hit that came to me was this awareness that most of us, we polarize energetically depending on what the circumstances are. But left to our own devices, we don't really know who we are without those circumstances. And the way that I see my partner be a boundary person is because he literally, if somebody has an energy, like he always meets them with an expectation of neutrality. But if they have some sort of energy, he matches that energy. So if somebody in my world was being a bully, I would be thinking, oh my God, they're having such a bad day. I can't believe this. Like, I would try to be nicer and make their day better. And his reflection is, dude, you're being a bully. Like, he doesn't let people energetically not see themselves in the mirror. Where my demographic is like, oh my God, I want to protect you from that vision of yourself that you don't want to be, that like we're all seeing right now. But then you have to kind of like energetically be the rock so that things like that don't happen, right? Like that's me in the back of the car, like, oh my God, I hope that I can be neutral enough or good enough or quiet enough that like this fight doesn't happen right now, or I hope this guy doesn't kill my dad or something. So having to polarize to another default, like when my client was getting yelled at and then she fawned and then she was so resentful that she fawned. But again, I want to say that's a flex as much as it is like a style. It's a flex. But if she matched people's energy, and here's the whole thread of this whole thing, the ambivalent men that she attracts or the avoidant men that she attracts, by any, she would match their energy accordingly and run not after them, but away from them, right? So these people that run to her, she's kind of like running away from, right? But the people who run away from her, she's running toward. And they're not matching energy. They're not both saying, hey, we're both here. They're matching energy in that they're polarized against each other in the sense that it's two magnets that should be connecting that can't connect. And that distance of intimacy is not intimacy at all, theoretically, but it's comfortable for some people. And there is, there's a tension there, that you like that tension. But it's matching somebody, but doing the opposite of what they're doing. Where it's possibly likely that, and I'm not trying to say manipulate the matrix, but if you were attracted to somebody who was avoidant and you avoided them, they would probably be more likely to meet you in the middle, right? So I want you to toy with this hit that I had about where I'm not saying if somebody's in fight mode, you fight them, or if somebody's frozen, you like, see, that's the thing. I would go up to everybody frozen and be like, hey, I'm so warm, my love. Like, I see you in there. I would try to do something about who they were, to fix something that didn't need to be fixed, maybe necessarily, or it wasn't my business, or it wasn't my job at the time. And it was my role, but I would feel anybody's nervous system and do the opposite. If there was somebody frozen and I saw somebody like fucking with them, I'd be like, bitch, we're fighting, right? Like, we are in the fight now. Instead of actually matching energy and letting the energy be what it is while it's matched. And the way that I was experiencing this, where I was aware, I was actually like fighting with a client. Like, this is a fight right now. And not because it really was. Like, I think she's used to those kinds of interactions, but I had to step into my fight to neutralize myself. Not, and this was a first for me, to neutralize her or the situation. It was almost as if I realized why Chris, just like, he meets people in the energy that they are. And he is a mirror for them in a way that is like, you kind of bounce off the mirror a little bit instead of like, oh, come all the way into my mirror and let me show you why you're being a schmuck right now, right? So the specifically women that I tend to work with, we often create chaos where there is none. And when there is chaos, we know exactly who to be and who everybody should go to, because we're the rock, right? But that's because of a standard of neutralizing other people's energy who were possibly more oppressive than we were at the time. So, yeah, it's just something to think about. That's all. Just something to think about. Do you match people's energy when they are in a response? And there is a way also, it's like there's a way to match it in energy, but not claim it as your own psychology also, which is a thread. That's a fine line, right? But when people go, I can't tell if this is mine, this is theirs, blah, blah, blah. I understand this deeply. I would always say, if you're feeling it, like you resonate with it to some degree, it's super fair to say this isn't mine, but to know that usually, especially if you're an empath, it's never personal. You're feeling what everyone in the system is feeling. So a lot of my demographic is like, I feel oppressed in my family. I feel separated from my family. I feel this way. And I'm like, dude, you're not the only one in the family that feels that way. You're just feeling what every single person in the system is feeling, but nobody has a new model for recreating that default setting for your family. And if you're willing to do the work, you're the only person with access, or who's going to be gifted access from the work to do that thing. So I think I'm getting off a little bit here, but do you match people's energy or do you polarize? And when you polarize, I want you to realize it's a flex of control as much as like, because, you know, you can walk away being like, oh, why did I like fawn? Why did I do that? That was your fight in that moment. That was a strategy. You can change your strategy, but never by looking at it and go, oh, why did I do that? I should have done it differently. It's like, oh, interesting. That was my strategy this time. What would I do differently next time? And if you were in a vibration instead of a surrender of like, they're coming at me, but like they are offending me right now. And therefore I am actually going to have to defend my territory, which is like, I'm not saying we're not connected, but I'm saying you're going to step right off there and be on your own land while I'm here talking to you at my gate, right? Just to keep things kosher. So think about it for you. I've been thinking about it for me, and it feels like kind of an interesting expansion to know that like there's so much room actually between the you that polarizes to neutralize and the you that would just let the energy be what the energy is. And one kind of takes a lot of energy.